A lawsuit filed by human rights lawyer and activist Maxwell Okpara challenging the 1.5 billion naira allocation to the office of the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, in the 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Act, which was recently signed into law, suffered a setback on Thursday. The recent appointment of a judge for the case to the Court of Appeal created a vacuum and as such affected the hearing of the case, which was set for January 11th. Maxwell Okpara is contending that the 1.5 billion naira allocation violates constitutional provisions, as the office of the First Lady is not recognized in the 1999 Constitution. The lawyer seeks an injunction for the court to declare the allocation as unlawful.
The essence of this case is to ensure that you don't waste a public fund. You don't waste, because the people that are supposed to benefit from allocation and fiscal from a federation account are being listed in the Constitution. Office of the First Lady is not there. So now the president has said, I'm going to cost. That's why we are asking the woman to return that 1.5 billion naira to the federal government so that it can be used for some other things, not to maintain office, not to maintain cars. And as a pastor, I thought that, and as a mother, I thought that he would have said, no, the money you are giving me to maintain office of the First Lady, I don't need it. It's wasteful. But he still collect it. And we believe that he have not spent that money. Because if he spend that money and the court order that he should return it, he will definitely return it. That's the opposition.
Let's see if that would happen, Maxwell. Well, in the meantime, I can't even catch my breath.
No grief.
Maxwell has just really hit the nail on the head there. He's actually doing the Lord's work at this point. I mean, I think he made a lot of valid points. One, which is, she's a pastor. And the fact that the allocation and the office of the First Lady is not recognized in the Constitution, it is, it's absolutely wasteful for that to be appropriated to the office of the Lady. Let's see if the First Lady will return the funds. Well, in the meantime, Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 election, has criticized the directive by the president to slash the number of people on entourages for international and local travels by 60%. Presidential spokesperson Ajuri Ngelale announced the new measure on Tuesday, stating that the move is part of cost-cutting measures of the presidency and that the measure will affect the office of the president, vice president, first lady, ministers, and heads of agencies. While reacting to the development, Peter Obi, in a post on X, said the measure is just scratching the surface. His tweet reads in part: the just announced 60% cut in the size of federal official entourages on travel is one positive step towards the reduction of cost of governance and a way of halting wastage. But this measure is just scratching the surface, as it is limited in scope and can only lead to a very negligible savings. We are yet to be told how much savings this will amount to. While this modest step may be somewhat commendable, what is desirable should be both a 60% reduction in federal official overseas trips as well as a 60% reduction in the size of delegations. Most importantly, what our current economic reality demands a 60% reduction in the total cost of governance at the federal level. It is not enough to announce arbitrary cuts in the size of federal official entourages. The nation needs to be informed of how much the measure will save and where such savings will be applied. We're talking about savings here. I mean, both Maxwell and Peter Obi have, said the right things here, because, what is the cut? What is the cut of governance here? What is the 60%? What does the 60% entail? That's what a lot of people are asking.
Yeah, to be fair, a number of people have said that it might be negligible in terms of the cost of, when you look at the cost of governance or how much savings is 60% cut in the staff members or members of staff who travel. But that's not the big thing.
Yeah.
That there should be more of a deeper look into other areas which we talked about in terms of ministries, department, agencies. We looked at, we've talked about going back to the Steve Oronsaye report in terms of, streamlining government and cutting government wastages, especially with duplication of activities or responsibilities. We've talked about that a number of times. So while this sounds really nice and the optics look good, and any savings, to be fair, is welcome, what we're saying is that there's a lot more that can be done. Now, going back to the story of Maxwell Okpara and the First Lady, what I was going to say was that, so two things. It boggles my mind why, successive governments can't just put it into, if you're really passionate about First Lady, the office of the First Lady, make it as part of the law and let things be done legally. If you're so passionate, the US has the office of the First Lady. There's budgets allocated to that office. So if you really are passionate about your wife being, but let's stop this narrative of, it's not in the Constitution, it will not be recognized. And then you keep putting money into that and it's illegal, it's not constitutionally recognized. Why do we keep doing that? The second aspect on the flip side is this. The president's wife famously said during campaigns that she doesn't need Nigeria's money, that they have enough money of their own. So in terms of running her office, can she take the same energy into ensuring that it's 1.5 billion naira? It's not a lot if you look at it for, in terms of how much money they have, and I'm sure they probably declared. So it's not anything that should be contentious to this extent where Nigerians are calling for a return of the funds. In terms of being honorable, just do it and spend, money for yourselves. I believe that there should be an office created if we want it, but it should be done properly. Right. Let it go through the House of Representatives, let it be passed as law and be signed in, and let us know we have an office. And let this, under budget, allocations be done. That's my take on that. That they do work. Since First Lady Mariam Babangida, she uplifted the office of the First Lady, and they play quite a critical role. But it's important that it's well defined in our Constitution, and then there's also an allocation that's reasonable in light of current economic realities.
Do you think Maxwell Okpara will go anywhere with this case? I mean, I'm not even sure, Dr. Abati.
No, Nigeria does not need to put office of First Lady or to define it in the Constitution.
No.
It is unknown to the law. Yeah. It is unknown to the law. And they don't do that even in other countries of the world. I think it was Mrs. Obama that was interviewed in one of these episodes. And she was saying that even in the White House, there's a limit to what you can eat.
Yes.
If you eat more than what you should eat, you will pay for it. Yeah. She said it's like living in a hotel. So there's nothing about wives here. The Nigerian people voted for the president. It's the president that is known to them. Yeah. There's nothing called office of the First Lady or office of the wife of the governor. However, the important thing by this suit by Maxwell Okpara, which everybody must note, is that the law is there to serve the people, but you never really know the full extent of the law or the extent to which government breaks the law unless you test the law. So what Maxwell Okpara is doing is called testing the law. Mm-hmm. And he has quoted the relevant sections 80, 81, 84, and section 162, dealing with federal allocations. And nowhere in all of these sections, he is saying, is the office of the First Lady mentioned, either at the federal level or at the state level. These positions are unknown to law. It's a convention that we borrowed from the Americans, whereby we elevate the wife of the president or the governor to a height that is not provided for in the law. We all laughed when President Buhari, I think in Germany, when he was asked about the wife, and he said the place of his wife is in the other room. Now, we laughed at it.
Some people laughed. Some people did not find it funny.
We thought it was misogynistic.
Yeah.
Some people thought. Yes. But he was stating a basic fact. Which is? He may have used the phrase the other room, which people may find offensive. Yeah, but the import of it is that office does not exist in the governance process. Wives exist to support their husbands, whether in the kitchen or in the living room. Don't let me bring up that conversation. Now, the other thing you pointed out is that the judge who was in charge of the case, Justice Mohammed, has now been elevated to the appellate court, and that the case was supposed to be heard yesterday in court, January 11. That's not an issue. The Federal High Court has a system. They have 94 judges under the Federal High Court system in 38 divisions in 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. And the head of that, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court of Nigeria, is Justice John Soho. It is Justice John Soho's responsibility to reassign the case. Yeah. That's his job. There's a head of the Federal High Court, okay? After all, recently he redeployed judges. So nobody should have any fear in that regard. Nobody should say, oh, they don't want to hear the case. That is not true. Mm-hmm. The court, part of the job of the court is to allow citizens to test the law. As for the